Welcome back to another episode of the Whatever Buddy podcast. Episode 104 is taking off and ready to land. On today's episode, we have a special guest, an old friend, Gene Lewis from the bands Bullets and Octane and Letter Kills. So now's the time to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So with no further ado, Ryan and Johnny. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Here we are.
We're doing it again, baby.
104 in the house. Ready to go. Bringing down the heat. Bringing it on. Getting ready.
Yeah. Do I look dark to you today? I feel like I look a little bit
darkly beautiful.
Thanks, man. I feel like my room is a little dark today. So if it is,
you know what?
Apologies.
It's not that it seems dark. It seems like the orange tint brighter. Is what it seems like.
Well, here's the orange tint. But back on the Java.
I was gonna say, are you drinking whiskey or coffee?
This is a homemade iced coffee. It's my homemade iced coffee, baby.
This is yum hot coffee. So listen, today's a good day. We have a guest coming in today, an old bandmate, a dear friend, Gene Lewis of the Gene Lewis family household will be here in a few minutes. But in the meantime, hello, Ryan Harris. How are you doing today?
Hello, Johnny U. I'm doing good, except I'm still wearing sunglasses because of the eyeballs.
You know what's weird is like now it's just become normal to me that like
you're used to it. Yeah.
Well, I didn't even think like, wow, he's got sunglasses on in the house. But now I'm like, oh, yeah. That dick's got his sunglasses on again.
You can see my glare. You can see all my setup probably. Get some internet creeps out there trying to figure out what I got going on behind the scenes.
You know, it's funny. I didn't even notice that until you pointed it out.
Yep.
Now it's distracting me. Take those fucking things off.
I will. You want me to?
No. I don't want to see black.
All right. Hey, what do you got for me today, buddy? I came unprepared.
Really? What were we talking about right before we came on? And being judgy.
Yeah, you were judging people that I personally know. We will leave names out of it. Yeah. It was conversation. It was harmless. It wasn't shit talk. It was just perception. And then you said, well, people probably think I'm douchey too. And
and then my question to you is like, why is it that I think they're douchey? Like their energy, I look at them, these people that we're talking about, and I feel like I just look at them like, yeah, that guy just seems like a douche.
I don't know. But I'll tell you what, the older I get, the more I realize that not everyone's going to like you. I can't win them all. So I don't really give a shit. I don't give a shit about this topic either.
Yeah, neither do I. I think most people probably don't like me, and the select few who understands the unique of the world do love me. There's no like. It's either love.
So you think people that understand and appreciate uniqueness like you?
I think they understand me more because I think people who don't understand uniqueness have no idea where the fuck I came from in this world. They're like, what?
You come out of left field with some things. Yeah, you're definitely a left fielder. If you were in the MLB, you'd be a left fielder.
Right. Or in the NFL, I would be a left tackle.
You're a little bit too skinny to be a left tackle, but I like where your mind is going.
This is a first. Ryan Harris has nothing today.
Oh, it doesn't mean I can't carry my weight in a conversation, buddy.
So what topic this morning just caught your attention? Like I'm not saying topics like podcast topic. Like, did anything happen today that you're like, Jesus, what an asshole, or something like that?
No. I saw my parents and that was nice. And I'm on this whole new thing of like, I get anxiety, man. I'm done with it. It's a drag.
Okay, so that's an interesting topic. We're going to make this a mental conversation today because I battle with very bad anxiety myself.
Yeah.
As we both drink coffee, the smartest thing for anxiety.
I'm cool, baby. Third baby of the day.
Oh, shit. I'll talk to you tonight at 11 o'clock. You'll be like, motherfucker, I want to rip my
stomach
out. What the fuck?
Damn it.
What do you do to calm the anxiety? Because it's easier said than done.
Oh, yeah, no, it's definitely easier said than done. Oh, dude, you just have to recognize it.
This is when I wish we could take phone calls and get the audience's opinion of this, too. But
I know. Hey, one day, maybe,
Yeah.
Once I recognize what it is, it never ceases to amaze me whenever I'm going through anxiety and I'm freaking out about something or the other. And then there's that moment of, oh, it's just anxiety. Like, chill out.
But how are you able to differentiate that? I mean, just because you know it's anxiety doesn't mean...
What was that word?
Differentiate.
Differentiate.
Differentiate? Do you,
Yeah.
you want to try that one more time? Differentiate.
Leave me alone.
Okay.
Okay.
I love talking to you about
So this is like
words,
a
man.
shame Johnny episode? We're not going there.
I'm not
going
shaming
there.
you.
But you knew what word I meant. That's all that matters.
I did call you a left fielder. Anyways, continue. My bad.
Well, it's anxiety, but how do you know that the anxiety isn't deserved? Because the way I have where the problem comes with me is that if I'm having anxiety and I identify that it's anxiety, it makes the anxiety worse because I'm like, oh, why do I have the anxiety?
I'll give you an example. I don't mean to downplay it. You should always check in and make sure that everything's okay with you. In fact, last week I had my blood panel done because I wanted to see.
Oh, how is that? Yeah, how'd that go?
It was good. My cholesterol's high, but hey, such is life. Anyways,
that's everybody's cholesterol's high.
Yeah. There's something to be said for out of sight, out of mind. And here's what I mean by it. I played a show in November. We played at the Roxy and the curtain is shut. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I'm walking down. We're on in like 5 minutes. And I start to get, dizzy hits me. And I'm like.
What, dizzy from Guns N' Roses?
I wasn't physically assaulted by a man named Dizzy. I got dizzy in the head. I walk up on stage and I'm like, what the heck? I started freaking out. I started to have like an anxiety attack. You know what I mean? We're playing in 5 minutes. And
I thought I was having medical
right
issues when that would happen to me. So that's from anxiety.
Well, I again, dude, go get your tests checked. But for me, I ended up saying to myself, all right, at the risk of getting boring, I'll make this quick. I said, here's what's going to happen, dude. That curtain's going to open and you're going to start playing the songs. And one of two things is going to happen. You're going to, you're going to pass out. That's could happen. Or two, you're going to forget about it and the show's going to be over and you're going to be like, oh yeah, well, that was just anxiety. And that's exactly what happened. I just push it out of my mind sometimes.
My problem is I can't push it out of my mind. And I am an
It helps if you have
person.
something. It helps if you have something else to do. Go do something else.
I'm an obsessive person who spends a lot of time with himself. So
yeah, you have to go talk to somebody or go do something different. Get out of the solitary. Being by yourself will kill you, man. This whole lockdown the past 4 years is I mean, I guess it's over now, whatever. But people staying in their house and everything, that isn't healthy. That's what messed up my eyeballs, I bet you.
People stay in the house, and now it's gone to the point of I don't want to leave the house.
Right. Yeah. It becomes a habit.
A habit or a safety zone.
I don't know if it's the coffee, but I'm smart today, man. I dig it.
You should get coffee all the time. So today is an interesting day. We do have a guest today.
Yeah.
And that's actually a good, we can probably talk to Gene about anxiety. I think he'd probably know a bit about it through his life.
I think there's more interesting things to talk to Gene about than anxiety, Johnny. Let's be honest here.
I mean, I just figured why not just have a group therapy session together?
Who cares about the people listening? I want to help me feel better.
Maybe it'll help them though. What about that aspect?
Good. Talking about this stuff is good.
But having Gene on today is this is a big deal for me anyway, because I don't get to see Gene very often. And Gene and we played in a band together for 5 years. So this is a
good
nice
band, a cool band.
Yeah,
a band that I'm a fan of.
Yeah, we can talk to him about all that stuff. So maybe we should invite him on and get him going.
All right, buddy. I'll do that right now. While we're waiting on Gene, can I ask you if you know what a couple of words are? It's one of my favorite things to do.
Sure, Harris. Go ahead. Let's pick on Johnny Day.
It's not pick on you. It's just
make fun.
You're the word man. Just accept it.
The word man who doesn't know any words.
You're the word man, dude.
Let's do it. What do you got?
Do you know what an amuse-bouche is?
A what?
An amuse-bouche?
No.
It's like a free appetizer. It's a free appetizer from the chef. It's from the French to mean amuse the mouth. That's stupid. I'm cutting that shit out.
That's funny, actually. It's really funny. Amuse the mouth. That's a great name of a band. That's the first thing I'm going to ask Gene right now. Do you think Amuse the Mouth is a great name of a band?
Just come in hot. He's in the waiting room. I'll let him in right now. Hey.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
Hey, that was amazing because you're the only person I've ever seen have a picture. So it came on, and I'm like, Ryan, is that Gene or is that a picture?
I guess it does kind of. It isn't like I'm like skateboarding or something weird. It actually looks like I'm engaging you guys in that photo. Hi, Ryan. How are you, dude?
Hey, Gene. I'm good, man. Let me address the elephant in the room. The reason I'm wearing glasses inside is because I had my eye surgery last week. So,
you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's just I don't look cute right now. So I got the glasses on.
Real quick before we go, Ryan had just said something to me, and I thought it was a good band name. So I'm going to ask you, Amuse the Mouth, good or bad name?
Wait, say it again.
Amuse the Mouth.
That's terrible.
All right.
Yeah,
Ryan,
I thought
bad name.
So, I didn't think it was a good name. I asked Johnny if he knew what an amuse-bouche is. And it's like a free appetizer from a chef, and it means like from the French, like literally to amuse the mouth. And he goes, "That's a band name." I was like, "Not really."
Yeah, I mean, who am I to say, man? I mean, if we look at half the band names that have made it big in the last 10 years, It's like,
if you just go with the letters, it's ATM.
Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. I mean, that's better just to call your band ATM.
Yeah, and they can have multiple meanings.
Yeah.
Here's a funny story, Harris. Hello, Gene. I'm coming in hot today. I'm having my first cup of coffee.
We both have the coffees going.
For years, there was an inside joke in Bullets and Octane of like, why does Johnny have a bowl cut? Why does his hair always look like he's got, like, he used to have long hair? So
I know why.
You know why. So I just wanted to show Gene, this is why. I was shaving this off of my head. I must have been hammered one night, and I was like, oh, I got hair on my neck. I got to shave it. So I shaved all this shit off. It's growing back now. That's why I had a bob cut.
You gave yourself a bob when you were drinking?
Yeah, I thought I was shaving my neck, and apparently I shaved off like inches of my hair and not realizing.
Yeah, lay off those White Claws, buddy.
It was. This was back in the vodka at home days. This was a long time ago.
Oh yeah, the good old vodka at home days. Yes,
the good old vodka at home days. I don't do that anymore. Only on the road these days, because otherwise my liver would die. So Gene's here. This is great.
Yeah, Johnny, talk about our guest and stop talking about your bob cut.
Well, I wanted to show Gene the progress I'm making.
Well, I'll chime in real quick. I remember that your reasoning of why you thought that was happening was because you were always wearing that jacket. It kind of reminded me of like when you see, I mean, I'm not trying to make light of a bad situation here, but when you see homeless people and whatever they're wearing 24/7 wears away at stuff, or they get weird tan lines or like weird, So I think we thought because you were always wearing a leather jacket with a hoodie that it was like wearing
pushing
away.
It up. Yeah.
He just created his own like pillow, something to lean his head back.
That was the only thing that made sense to me, because who shaves their fucking hair off by accident?
I don't know. You.
I do. So for those who don't know, this is Gene Lewis. Me and Gene were in a band together for many years. Bullets and Octane, they're still out there alive and kicking and doing really good. Got a new record coming out this year at some point or later in the year, and a bunch of new singles. And that's who Gene is, and that's how we know each other. The first time we met was 2004, January 29th, 2004, when we played Chain Reaction.
Guys got dates, man.
The Chain Reaction. The Revelry CD release party, the Knives opened. That was the first time I met Gene. And then the first time we ever really got to spend time together was in 2007. The Knives, opened up for Bullets and Octane in the UK. And Gene's first real impression of me was me completely out of my mind, going through the worst breakup I've ever gone through in my life. And I was sober, out with Bullets and Octane, who were the craziest band at the time as far as partying goes. And the Knives, who partied like lunatics, except for the singer of the Knives, he was sober. So I had a guy to hang out with the whole tour. that was when me and Gene got to know each other. But I was so out of my mind that years later when I joined the band, it was always like, oh, you guys should have seen Johnny back in the day. That guy was crazy.
Wait, so you guys toured together? The Knives and Bullets and Octane toured together? Or you did a couple shows together?
A whole
tour?
toured.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that, dude.
Dude, it was nuts, man. It was, I mean, you throw Brian, Brain in the mix with the way we were rolling. I mean, I don't know. I kind of, I'll say it this way. I know Johnny and I talked briefly the other day, and I was kind of saying about how, I mean, I'll state this first. It's like, obviously, the Knives and Bullets and Octane are not household names, so I don't mean to put it next to anything big by any means. But when you hear the earlier stories of Motorhead or, Anthrax and like all that stuff. And you see little bits of footages that we were able to find from those early 80s and stuff days from those guys. And you hear those stories and you're like, man, how are those people still alive? It's weird. You kind of think that you're not doing that until you get older and you change your ways. And it's just like, I don't know how we got through it. I don't know how it all made sense, but you do kind of like, you get enablers around you, right? And I'm not trying to make it serious. It's kind of funny, but it's like you get someone like Brain from the Knives who was just looking to always push the envelope. And I was always wanting to push the envelope. And I know that half of the band, hell, I couldn't even tell you who was in Bullets and Octane on some of those tours, but I do know a lot of people who have left the band over many of the lineups have like basically sworn off music because it was just such an intense, like bad experience to where they're like, I can't even pick up drumsticks or a guitar again because it's just it's just too close to home to that.
That's intense.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when you make it out to the other side and stuff like that. But I mean, geez, how many times, Johnny, you and I haven't really talked too much in the last couple of years and everything, but I guarantee that you and I have wanted to reach out because we've heard so-and-so had passed away, so-and-so had passed away, someone OD'd or something direct, kind of correlating with drug use or alcohol use or something like that. And I'm just like, it's pretty astonishing that a lot of us had made it out of it pretty decently unscathed as a picture as a whole.
In the big picture, nobody's in prison. Nobody's dead. Everybody's got their limbs and we're still able to play music. I say we're doing okay. And
how would you lose a limb, Johnny, if you were to like,
that's the part
really...
Yeah. Well, if you were just fucked up or maybe hallucinating, like some of us here have had hallucination issues at times.
I was drinking some vodka last night and I woke up without a
hand.
However, I was in Cleveland and I happened to, after the show, I found a weed whacker and I was going to cut the back of my hair and I lost an arm.
I lost my arm.
I'm Jewish. What are you going to do?
One thing led to another, and I woke up without a finger.
Well, you know what's crazy? Speaking of fingers being lost, I watched a thing with Tony Iommi the other day.
Excellent segue.
Yeah, thank you. It was like a making of something by Black Sabbath, and he was explaining how he cut his finger off. It was on his
Tony Iommi?
It was his last day of work at his job that he did the fucking thing.
Oh, wow.
Right?
How did he cut his fingers off?
Like a machine, like a fucking machine at work. And it was literally his last day on the job.
Then this just goes to show kids out there. Let me tell you something, kids. If you plan on going into work on your last day when you know you're going to quit anyway, don't go in on your last day.
Just quit, man.
This is the lesson there.
Walk out.
Yeah. I often wonder if that has something to do with his guitar tone.
It is.
It's coming from his hand.
He made the thing that he puts on his finger. He made that himself. He made it himself. So he could play, and then that's like he still does that. He still uses that thing.
Yeah, dude, that's like a full blown thing. I've watched a few things about the topic, and they kind of credited. I mean, you know how it goes, man. Like as things go on and things become legend, the story becomes even more grandiose and ridiculous and unrealistic than it naturally was in the beginning. But they do say though, because of the crazy light strings, I think and it could be kind of goofing up the facts here, but that he had to play 8-gauge strings, which I don't know. I mean, you guys, I know you probably know, Ryan. It's like
I have no idea.
Yeah, they're like 8 gauge is like fishing wire. It's like so
you could blow on the guitar and break a string.
They're real thin.
Yeah. So between that and the way he had to play chords, that kind of had a little bit to do with the so-called sound of metal. Now, then again, if the band never would have made it, then no one would be talking about that shit, right? They'd be like,
they'd be like, look at that idiot who cut his finger off working.
Man, if I didn't go into that last day of work, I really could have been something.
Oh, could you imagine? Oh, dude, could you imagine?
Yeah, that's a whole other level of depression. There's a lot of White Claws in that guy's future.
It's weird, Gene. So like you and I, and Ryan, God, you two are the same age. I figured out the other day, by the way. We don't need to talk about 27 exactly. We don't need to talk about the ages. Yeah. But I was doing the
27 club, Gene.
I was doing the math the other day. I'm like, I think the guys are the same age. Here's a question I have for you, Gene. Now, as we get older, we see people, and Ryan, I'd like to see your answer to this too. We see people who stop pursuing the musical dream. How do you think it is that they're able to walk away from it? Because listen, there's not a day. I'm sure every one of us on this phone call at one point or another is like, man, is this fucking worth it? Do I really want to do this shit anymore? You know what I mean?
Every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Every 5 minutes.
Exactly. Right?
Honestly.
No, yeah, no, it is probably a daily fucking thing too. So my question is, how do they walk away? Like you were talking about the guys who, like, because of drugs, that makes sense. They have a reason to, right? What if it's not that reason? And they're just like, I'm done with this. I've had enough. I'm going to get a normal job. I'm going to have wife and kids and do this normal life thing. How do you think they're able to do that? Because you know what? No matter how bad this music shit is for me, whenever I think of that option, I'm like, yeah, music ain't so bad.
I mean, I'll tell you this. I remember, I'm free to talk about this because him and I have said this before, but I remember Nick Perry, from like all those bands, Silvertide and Shinedown and stuff like that. Him and I took a walk one time down Melrose, and I remember we were both like, wow, man, we were all so close. We all made it. We almost made it, right? There's so many of us that are in that same camp of almost had it. And I think there's something kind of, neat. I'll jump around a little bit here, but it's like, there's kind of like the Sebastian Bach theory where it's like, you are who you are when you make it. It's almost like that high school quarterback who, if you get accepted at a certain age, you don't grow much from that point because something inside of you said, I've been accepted, or in the camp, in the tribe, or whatever you want to call it. And
interesting.
I feel like with the music thing, at least for me, maybe I'm answering the question, maybe I'm not, but I will say that it's like, you continuously, it doesn't work out. So then you come to terms with it, you accept it, and you go, okay, I got to do better. I've got to write better songs. Apparently I got to do something better than what I did before, because it didn't work. And I think that's always a constant state of growing that you're in and pushing. And this is going without having the fame and without having the money, the two things that usually kind of cloud of the judgment of why move forward. And I think when you kind of accept that in your mind of like, okay, if it doesn't come down my path that I'll have fame or money, the only thing I'm going to have at this point is going to be, kind of the pride of pushing myself to make better songs, better music, better albums, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you have that and you accept that you might not make money and you might not actually get fame, there's something really strangely freeing about that, because you kind of accepted your own terms that you set for yourself when you're younger. You say, I'm a lifer, da da da. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, yeah, but I want to make it. I do want to make a bunch of money. I do want to be a household name. But when you really kind of get to an older age, and you're like, shit, this really I might be a Los Angeles cliche. Like a lot of the, like many others that you don't hear about their stories, you have to make that kind of fork in the road decision. Like, well, what's it going to be then? Am I going to go do something that's going to, because we all have that inside clock that says, I need stability, I need security. And you have to always kind of fight that. And it gets harder as you get older. I mean, how many people do we know are willing to, at this age, throw on a backpack and go sleep on floors in Sweden and just keep doing it,
Get back in the van.
Oh yeah, man. It's just not going to happen. So I think there's a lot of people I know that have seen the resurgence of what's happened in the early 2000s with music. And they're like, shit, why did I hang it up? Because we're getting a second go around. And if I would have kept going, this would have been my time. So I'm seeing a lot of people who have done that. They've gone and got the cubicle jobs, the security thing, and that felt good for a brief minute. But then that thing inside of you kind of keeps calling like, hey, you're not answering your call. You're not going after that thing.
The theory is because music picks you, you don't pick music. That's my theory on that one. But I want to ask you something you just said. Not to interrupt, because I want you to finish that. But before we get too far away, well, you had said, I got to go write better songs, this, that, and the other thing, right? Now, it's the music industry. To push back a little bit, wouldn't you say that this business is all about, are you in the right place at the right time? Like, you can have a record deal. That doesn't mean that the music climate, like, for example, Warner Drive. I feel like if Warner Drive would have came 5 years before or 5 years after, that band would have had a better shot. But we just happen to be in that window where it's like, God forbid you play that type of music right now. You're screwed. Then you look at the Mercury Riots, where in 2000, if we would have released an album that sounded like AC/DC, they'd be like, oh, fucking 80s, rah, rah, rah. Now they say, oh, it sounds like the 80s. Amazing. So it's all timing, really.
Right. No, to your point, you're completely right. And I agree with you. But what I was kind of like, talking on is what you can control is what I was saying. So writing better songs, writing better albums, those are things you kind of can control. But as far as what you're talking about, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, especially like even now, I'll just give you my example too of what people kind of tell me. Everyone has a fucking opinion on how to make it, right? And everyone's always saying, well, let's listen to the active rock charts and the top 40 of this.
Jesus, and fuck that.
You'll see where I'm going with this. And it's a thing of like, maybe those theories and that type of like thing would have worked. Like, let's say the 90s, we had grunge for a full-blown decade, let's say.
Oh.
And then the early
And by
2000s,
the
we
end,
had...
I was ready to like, no more.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And in the early 2000s, we had the screamo, emo, pop punk, a little bit of ska, whatever, right? But as time is going on, trends and things that are hot at the moment, they're so flash in the pan that if you did do the thing, let's say right now I was like, okay, someone said the new fucking Skillet song or some shit is the thing to do. Get in the studio, boy. Go ahead, get in there. And I get in there and I make some song. I turn it into the label. They put it into production. Da da da. By the time it's released, pushed by PR, and possibly placed in some sort of playlist that no one's going to hear, the sound has already moved on and changed.
Skillet who?
Right. So in my mind, I always go back and use the same example of like Flog and Molly or Dave King or something like that, to where it's like, who in a million years would have thought a guy who was doing, Electric Love Hog or whatever it was in the 80s, the hair metal thing, which he was doing openly, and all of a sudden you put together in your 40s, a punk, Irish band, and somehow it worked out. Like, that's completely luck, and that's completely...
He was in his 40s when that happened?
I mean, dude, I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty close.
I think music's just also, the reason it's so cyclical is because you have that one influential Nirvana or whatever that changes things, and then you have all the pilers on, and it works its way to where you're like, oh, enough already, and then something else comes out. It's like, that's so refreshing.
So let me ask you something about to that point, and it goes to both of your points. It goes to like, should I write the Skillet song, or you got to do this? What about the bands who consciously, without a label being like, I need you to do this, are like, I'm going to go out and sound like this band, and just rip it the fuck off, and they're doing nothing original? Because like what happens is you get the 2 or 3 bands that create the genre, and then you get the 20 bands that follow the genre. So in 20 years, which bands are still playing? The 3 bands that started the genre, and those 20 are like Bullet Boys, just fucking going over and playing the same clubs that the Mercury Riots play right now. You know what I mean? After they already had their success. But Motley Crue was one of the first 3, so they're playing stadiums. You know what I mean? So what about that?
Well, I would say it's hard to say, because you have grunge, and then, just to stay on the Nirvana thing you were talking about too, there is like, you have grunge, then you have what they call diet grunge, right? The college version of it, which is like your Spin Doctors, your Jim Blossoms, your all that stuff, the Soul Asylums and things like that. And a lot of them, like even like, our probably mutual friend Robin Diaz is playing drums with Live, and those guys were just now getting done touring. So I don't know if it really is going to mean that one's going to have more success than the other, or staying power more than the other. But it is kind of a thing, because I mean, dude, especially nowadays, a lot of people have been telling me lately.
But you named every band you named was a very big band, though. There's like bands, and then what about that band that Seven Mary 3? You remember that one?
Seven Mary
3.
Right. Whatever they thing.
I mean, I haven't heard that forever.
Yeah, no, it's a good song.
You should put it on, smoke some weed, and put some meth on, and just get into it.
Put some meth on.
Have yourself a party. Have yourself a
all by yourself.
Party.
Turn the air conditioning off. No, but I will say, I mean, then you have stuff that you wonder how it works. I'll give 2 examples that I find very interesting, and I love these conversations. They're not meant to really have answers.
It's funny that you say that, because as you said, I love these conversations, I was sitting here going, man, I love this conversation, as you said that.
Yeah, dude, I mean,
did we just become best friends?
You want to do karate in the garage? It's really weird, though, because
will say yes to that. Be careful.
But let's look at like what people care about, or if they still do, like the Police of punk rock type of thing, of credibilities and stuff like that. So you might have someone like Tupac Shakur, who is in Nothing But Trouble, the movie with Dan Aykroyd, a comedy, whatever, 80s type of thing. A lot of shoulder pads were involved. And, somehow he's wearing bibs, overalls, dancing around, doing the Humpty dance with the Digital Underground. And then somehow is like years later in the early 90s led to be known as like, hardcore punk, streets California, like straight up gangster. He's the most gangster West Coast motherfucker there is. And it's like, wait a minute, why is no one Maryland? Why is no one rewinding the tape and going, do you remember when you were dancing background for the Digital Underground with the guy with the plastic nose going, the Humpty dance is a dance. And then you also have Alice in Chains, which I remember when I was doing the In the Mouth of the Young album, John Ewing, the engineer of that album, he goes, come here, look at this, puts on the computer, pushes play, and he goes, guess what band this is? And I probably told you this before, Johnny, but I remember looking at the screen, and it was full blown, all leather, smoke machines, the cop hats and all that, the half microphone stand from the 80s. And, oh yeah. And I'm like, this has got to be Early Priest, right? And he's like, no, this is Alice in Chains. And I'm like, what? And it's weird to think that grunge was such the opposite. It was the slap in the face, if you will, to 80s rock. And then somehow there are those bands and these artists in different genres that have people that are so into street cred, much like the hip hop thing and the Tupac thing. And also now what I'm saying with Alice in Chains and the grunge thing is that how did they slide under the radar? I mean, they're great. They're fucking like, undeniably great, Alice in Chains, sure. So maybe that's the factor that I'm answering my question about. But I will say, how is it that no one was like, wait, hold the phone. I'm raising my hand. This isn't grunge. You guys were just screaming about
Have you seen Pantera?
Pantera, yeah.
But that's even crazier because their first album, he was doing all the...
And they look
straight
like
up
a glam
80s
band.
metal, yeah, or 80s glam.
It's crazy.
So what does that mean with the rules? That's kind of the topic that I kind of was going in, is like, there is exception to almost every single rule with all of this.
Well, you know what that exception is? If what you do is truly genuine and believable and you're good at it, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. When I was a kid, there was a band from Philadelphia called the Hooters, and I remember calling their manager Steve Mountain. And we danced. Yeah. Steve Mountain. And I remember him saying to me, because I was trying to get him to manage my high school band or some shit like that. And he said to me, he goes, remember this. He goes, it doesn't matter what's happening in music. There's always room for a good rock and roll band. You know?
Wait, didn't we play in Sweden with the Hooters? Is that
We
different
did.
Hooters?
No, it's the
Is that
same
the same Hooters?
Same
That's
Hooters.
the same one? They're from Philly?
Yeah.
The same
Oh,
Hooter.
wow. Yeah. It's just fun to say.
Yeah.
Let's say it
I like how
together.
you-
Speaking of Hooters, I just learned that massive wagons means massive wagons.
Wait, you just learned that?
Yeah, I had no idea. Clueless.
Dude, fuck that. I remember, Johnny, we were in the whatever we were in, a Winnebago bus or something. And we, as an overall band at the time, granted, your answer is going to be, but Gene, we were all drinking and,
Doing
carrying
drugs.
on.
I don't remember.
Put it lightly, doing drugs. But I remember us, because I remember going, massive wagons, because I'm just full blown picturing big wagons pulled by horses.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck does this mean? This is like right next to REO Speedwagon at this point. What are we doing with ourselves?
Why? What
And
does
then
that
just to
mean? What's
find out-
REO Speedwagon mean?
Yeah, that's a good
I looked
question.
it up not long ago, and I still don't remember what the answer was. It had something to do with. Now I feel like I'm just making up Gene facts here, but something
we
That's
about
have
okay.
like,
We speak half truths in this podcast. Put it out there like
All the
facts. It's
time.
all good. Yeah.
oh, perfect. Oh, well, then I'll just make something up. See, in 1940, Matt Pinfield would say, now in 1948, the USPS had a hard time delivering mail across the United States. They hired an outside provider that was called REO
good.
Speedwagon.
That's good. That's really
Not to be
good.
confused with REO Speedball.
Yeah, ooh, I could all use, my mouth started watering and my nose. But I tell you what, though, I mean, because if you think about it, I was actually going to do a podcast idea where I put on the Halloween white mask of
Michael Myers.
what's the thing?
Scream.
What's the
Scream.
older where he's
White
got the
man.
nail Pinhead.
Pinhead.
Oh, Hellraiser.
Hellraiser, you win the money. So I was going to put on the Hellraiser mask, and because his name's Pinhead, and I was going to do Matt Pinfield, but Matthew Pinhead, and it was going to be me going over music, but wearing that up.
That's
The more I tell people this idea, the more I realize how terrible of an idea it is.
I
and
think
how
it's a
hard-
great idea. I think it's a great idea, though.
It's a great idea. Here's my question. The Pinhead thing is very identifiable, and people are going to know what that is. What about Matt Pinfield would make the rest of the body like, that's Matt Pinfield?
I guess me going like this.
You have a shirt on that says, I'm Matt Pinfield.
I'm Matt Pinfield, right? Yeah, music historian or something very obvious, right?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I think it was going to be called Matthew Pinhead 666 minutes instead of 120 minutes.
Nice.
I love
I don't
that.
know.
That's
But
good.
you're right, though. There's only a niche market of people, that would know what the hell
gonna
I'm
get
doing.
it.
So that's why I never did it. You can see why.
He's such a nice dude, though.
Dude, he's the fucking best. I still will
He's so
text
nice.
him once in a while and just try to throw him off with a band. I'll go, what do you know about Annihilate? They started in Springfield, Illinois, and the two brothers.
You can't stump him. You can't stump him.
Dude, you honestly can't. It's unbelievable.
My first band, Cherry Monroe, we showcased for at the time he was a rep for Columbia. So Matt Pinfield was at our showcase, and we're talking to him afterwards, and our drummer's uncle is a man named Donnie Iris, who had gold record in the 60s with a band called the Rappers. He was in Wild Cherry, that Play the Funky Music song, and then he went on his own and had some hits on his own. So Jason was wearing his uncle's t-shirt, and the first thing he goes is Donnie Iris, and starts talking about Donnie Iris. It's pretty funny.
No way. So he just knew, huh?
He just
Well,
knew
Donnie
who he was.
Iris, I don't know the name Donnie Iris, but I heard a song on the radio and they're like, that was Donnie Iris. I'm like, that's Donnie Iris. Like,
No,
it's a
he's huge.
very recognizable song.
He's 80 and he still sells out around Pittsburgh. It's awesome. Such a good dude.
Going back to the point of the mindset of like, there's bands out there who are such fans of like, say, whatever big band, like we'll just talk 90s, like Stone Temple Pilots, right? So then they start a band, not even acting like they're not ripping off. Okay, Greta Van Fleet. Let's just go there. Okay, let's just do it. Why not? We don't like Led Zeppelin. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't like Led Zeppelin. You dress like them. You sound
Did they
like
say
them.
they don't like them, or did they say that they're not?
They said they're not
influenced
influenced. They're not, but like them, influence.
And then your bass player plays an organ. Cool story.
Right, and you dress like Jimmy Page. And
Yeah, the whole thing doesn't make sense. I mean, if you listen to his inflections of his vocals, it's an impossible thing to say that you weren't influenced or didn't hear. Because I remember reading something or hearing something that they were actually saying, like, no, we never really even listened to that. And I'm just like, dude, I mean, and the difference is
Kingdom Come said the same thing.
I mean, let's look at, then I hear other bands that own it and defuse the whole entire situation. Like, let's just even talk about like Luke Spiller with Struts. You know, people always go, you do know that you sound like Freddie Mercury, do you know? And he goes, well, of course I do. He was the best singer in rock and roll ever. So if you're telling me that I took from him, why would I not? And then it diffuses everything when you just kind of raise your hand and go, you bet your dick I did. I mean, look at Oasis, right? They went like, we decided to play the best Beatles songs and make them better. Of course, they had to add the cockiness to it, but you know. So I think it's just better just to get ahead of the 8 ball and just kind of come out of the gate. As soon as they address it, go, oh my God, isn't Freddie Mercury the best? Of course.
Well, it makes you genuine too. I mean, people don't want to listen to bullshit, man. I would probably like Greta Van Fleet's music better if they just owned it.
Yeah, like
cool.
Zeppelin's our favorite band. Can't you tell? You know, like, I mean, that's
Definitely.
my question though. Like a band that's a huge fan of Zeppelin and they sound just like Zeppelin. Now they're denying it, but let's say they didn't deny it. Like, don't they realize there's no originality to what they do? And are you okay with that? You know, like, own it, like you said. So my question is, do you think they just don't realize that they're that much of a direct ripoff, I guess, would be the question?
I don't know, but I think it's interesting that we've talked about two things where I think the outcome answer still kind of circles around something to the fact of if you do it really, really well, Luke Spiller sounds amazing. So how are you going to give the guy shit? The guy, the Greta Van Fleet, they kind of pull off. I mean, I don't listen to a lot of it, so I'm kind of speaking on shit I really shouldn't, but I will say that the stuff I have heard, I'm like, if there's anybody that's doing a decent sounding Led Zeppelin thing, this sounds pretty good. So I guess as long as you're doing it pretty damn well, you know, like I said, like Alice in Chains does what they do amazingly well. So I guess that kind of like makes you forget about that they came from cock rock because you're like, fuck, dude, have you heard Facelift? You know, it's Facelift and Dirt and pretty badass. So I think we can forget.
I would like their cock rock band better.
They went in the direction of improvement. Like they got better.
That's debatable.
Allison. Well, I mean, Pantera went in the same direction of improvement. You know, it's like they weren't glam rock anymore. They were metal, and it worked.
Hey, I feel bad that you guys are drinking coffee and I'm not, so I'm just going to the fridge, and I feel like I'm working for them. Hey, kids, this 4th of July.
Sponsorship.
Cheers.
Wow. Now I'm ready.
So, Gene, you mentioned the other day when I talked to you that you started interviewing people for something. Yeah, I did an interview with David, who's the CEO of Modern Drummer magazine. Basically, it's I've been working with the PR team for some of the Bullet stuff, and they're also the PR team that was working some of the singles for Let Her Kills. Basically, Joey Bradford from The Used is like the quasi-manager producer and stuff for the band Let Her Kills I play drums for, and he kind of introduced this PR team, and they did a pretty good job with all that stuff. And so we've been releasing some singles with Bullets through them, and they've been really liking my interviews and like my interactions with people. And they were like, hey, you're kind of a little bit more than just the music thing. You got a character to you. And I go, you're telling me, man, I've been on stage so many times where it's been like, you know, we're playing and then the band goes, hey, Gene, we've been on stage 35 minutes. Do you want to play a second song by chance?
because I'm always sitting there talking everyone's face off and, entertaining people. And I'm like, maybe there's something to it. So it's kind of opened up a little bit of a door to possibly jump into a different type of side of things, which, as we get older and so I listen to some of the songs that I have to scream my head off, and I go, that's probably going to, maybe there could be a door that could lead me into getting, respectfully older and doing something a little bit more with my character and who I am.
I think that's great.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome.
Great.
And what's going on? Like, I'm sure there's people that are going to watch this and want to know what's going on with Bullets. I mean, I don't know if Ryan realizes or anybody else realizes the fact that Gene and I are here on this. I mean, I've only seen Gene in person maybe 3 times since before the pandemic. So this is great. And this is hi. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, buddy. You look good.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, no, this is great. We've been talking about it like easily for a year about like, you got to come on the podcast. And then the other day I said it and I was like, oh, what about Thursday? And he's like, all right, cool. So here we are.
Well, I'll straight up state the obvious. I love your band. I've always loved Bullets and Octane, so it's great to have you on.
Dude, thanks, Ryan, man. I mean, hey, there's a few and far between people that give a shit about it. I'll be the first to admit it, not a household name. And, I think there's something kind of cool about being humble and just owning where things are at and just being honest. I think there was a lot of years of trying to make it seem or feel like, even to myself, that there was a lot more success to it. We did very well, for a smaller band many years ago. But like I said, man, it's like every time I try to think about doing something else, all of a sudden songs pop in my head and I'm picking up a guitar and I'm like, well, fuck it, man. Just keep fucking making songs and keep putting shit out. And if, like I said earlier, I won't keep it going, but it's like, if things work out and the stars align, because to your point earlier, Johnny, too, a lot of luck, a lot of connections and all that stuff have to happen. And, that's a lot to bank on. So I'm okay with being a little bit broke and struggling to get by, but I know what I'm not okay with, and that's not making music. Right. So here I am making music. And I tell you what, man, I've been taking care of myself. I get up at 6 every morning without an alarm clock, and I get up and I jog and I work out and I make little videos. And that kind of leads to what I'm going to get into now, which is that, I barely get on this thing the kids call TikTok. It's an app where people put on little videos. Isn't that what it is? And I've seen somebody liking a lot of photos and different things. And I was like, wow, this can't really be that person, because every famous person has a million fan pages and whatever, right? So once again, getting older and getting a little more kind of like, well, fuck it, man. You just got to put yourself out there. I wrote to the guy and I go, hey, man, if this is really you, here's my number. Hit me up. And I'm like, fuck it. Who cares? Right. And kind of forgot about it. And the next day I got a call from a 666 number. And sure enough, it was 666. Yeah. And sure enough, it was Steve Stevens from Billy Idol. And he was like, first off, I want to say, I've listened, I'm a fan of the music. I've heard it for years. And that's But I will tell you the thing wait.
He said he's been listening to Bullets for years?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'll tell you why. The first
that's gotta make you pump you up. Pretty solid verification right there.
Well, I know that he was friends with one of our first fans ever from like 1999. So I know that he had heard our version of Rebel Yell from back in the day and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But so anyway, he was saying the main reason why, I was starting to like stuff and interact a little more was because of your positive videos. Like, you seem healthy, dude. You seem happy and you seem very humble and stuff. So that's what really got me into going, I'm going to like kind of dig in on this dude. And so, awesome. The conversation started going, and I was like, well, hey man, I got some new stuff I'm working on. I'd love to share it with you and see what you think. And I sent him a song and he goes, dude, this is rad. And I'm like, well, there's some place in there for a guitar solo, if you noticed. And he was like, I'd love to. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm still a little skeptical because, there's so many scams nowadays, right?
How did he get a 666 number?
I don't know, but I'm surprised I even said it on the air. I probably shouldn't have said that. But so I said, literally sent him the song, and like less than 8 hours, I get a song back, and it's got Steve Stevens playing guitar. And I'm like, well, there is AI, so it still could be fake. So then I was like, really go for the jugular. I'm like, well, we're going to have to make a music video for it. You wouldn't want to be in the music video, would you? And he goes, well, if I'm going to be in the music video, I probably should play on the whole song. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it's like, it just
keeps getting better.
Dude, literally within like a 24-hour span, it was like this whole thing. And now we text back and forth like almost every day. And, so we booked, making a music video. The song turned out great, and he flew down from Vegas just to be in the music video with us. And he's been like kind of, been a great friend, a super supporter, and very humble and nice guy. They say don't meet your heroes, and most of the time, from my experience, they're fucking right. Don't.
Yeah.
But this is the one exception where he's the nicest, most humble guy, to where you forget you're talking to a legend. Dirty Diana, Michael Jackson, Rebel Yell. I mean, come on, man.
If I was to ask you, what do you think makes him humble? Do you think he's always been this humble, or do you think that life has made him this humble?
Man, who knows? Probably a little bit of both, I would assume. But I think that they just live healthy lifestyles at this point, and they, all I could speak from is my experience of wisdom of my life is that you get to an age where you realize your mortality. You realize you probably have more years you've lived behind you than years you have left. I know not to make it so negative, but I think it really puts the rules applied on everybody pretty quickly of like, and times have changed even in society, right? To where it's like rock stars are kind of dead. That whole thing of being an asshole,
doesn't
people
work.
still,
Yeah.
it just isn't, it's not cute anymore. And so I don't know, man, I couldn't tell you why, but he really is like the nicest guy. When you're standing in front of him and he's staring you eye to eye and you're just talking about coffee or something, it's like, wow, this dude is just a dude with kick-ass hair.
Is that song out, or is it still in the works?
That's what I'm getting at. July 12th, the song comes out, Bullets and Octane, No One Gets Out Alive. And we're just so blessed, man. It really was like, to be completely honest and transparent, it's like it really was a fresh breath of air into our sales, because I pump out songs, we pump out videos, we put them out every 5 to 6 weeks or something like that. And, after a while, you're just kind of like, man, what's the end goal of some of this? And you look around at what your opportunities are and your options. And it's like, man, I don't really know what's going to really move the needle at this point in a major way. You keep clawing at the same shit. So having somebody kind of jump in and go, I believe in you and I believe in this, and I think the music's pretty fucking rad. Let's do some stuff and just hang on tight. I'm going to introduce you to some people, and some great things might come along with it. And, and if it doesn't happen, because it's such a fickle and crazy business and we know how life goes, some things
Crazier things have happened though, Gene Lewis. Yeah. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah.
That's a bit of an answer to Johnny's initial question, though, is like, what makes you keep going? It's like the good outweighs the bad by such a huge measure that whenever something like that happens, like you said, like pumps your sails full of air. It's like, that's what keeps you going,
Yeah.
And it makes you forget the whatever little failure that you didn't matter anyway.
Well, everything happens for a reason, though. You know what I mean? Like wherever we are today, we're supposed to be exactly where we are today for whatever reason we're supposed to be here. If anything, I was talking to somebody the other day and I was thinking about how when I met my ex-wife, okay? It was such a freak incident. Like I was working as a waiter, right? And these 3 girls were walking into the restaurant, and it was the other waiter's turn.
They were.
Right?
Yeah.
It was the other waiter supposed to have these 3 girls. But right before they walked in, this old couple walked in the side door, which made the old couple the other waiter and the 3 girls my table. And that little thing changed the next 8 years of my life.
I don't mean to laugh at you. I'm just the whole 3 girls thing got me.
Yeah, you got stuck on that, right?
Yeah.
No, completely right, man. I've stood right next to you, Johnny, and single-handedly have witnessed. I mean, even in Edinburgh, right? With talking to Christian, the promoter at that club, and you're like, hey, maybe he knows a booking agent, or something random.
He's the one who introduced me to who gave us our record label.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So it's like you never know, and I mean, it really is a testament to speak up, like just like I did, right? It's like I was like,
worst thing
hey, Steve,
he could have said no. That's the worst that could have happened.
Right, yeah. And you move on. That's. Yeah. It is kind of strange. So it kind of shows that it's like, man, you could sit there and calculate everything, like people who go to colleges and stuff like that. You could sit there and lay out the plan in front of you and know that it is determined that if I go in and enroll in school and do what I'm supposed to do, in 4 years, I will have that degree, and then I will go to graduational school and all this other stuff. And the outcome is pretty good. There's job placement. I mean, I know that's not full blown either, but at least it seems more of a blueprint that is kind of laid out with a pretty good amount of structure that's going to pan out for you. But in this world, it's like literally walking down the street and someone honks at you and you wave at a red light, and all of a sudden you're on, right. 3 months later or something like that.
Totally.
So, I mean, it is kind of an exciting thing to think that any moment your life can change. You could scratch that lottery ticket that day, and that's the day,
Yeah.
God, that would be great. Would be just
But
You had a
Drive for
lottery.
it.
You had a lottery ticket on you the other day, buddy. Did you scratch it yet?
I did. I'm not a winner.
Yeah. I'm
Not
sorry
a winner
about that.
today. No, it sucked. I
sorry.
held on to it for like 2 weeks, hoping that would help my odds of winning that one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I've come to the conclusion of what all of that's about? Because for once in a while, like I'll get into the thing where I'm like, oh shit, the lottery's at this much. I got $1 and change in my cup holder in the car. Fuck it, let's get a ticket and go for it. What can I hurt? And you know what? I realized that because I'm not a gambling guy. That's one of the only bad things I somehow didn't pick up along the way of addictions. But, it is one of those things. It's like, what are they selling? What are they really selling? And they're selling hope to people who are stuck in the situation that it ain't going to get any better anytime soon. I'm stuck at that warehouse. I'm working at that fucking warehouse. And that's the way it is. I got 3 kids. I'm not getting out of this by walking away. I just can't. So this is it. So you're really selling hope. And it's a thing where even for 2 days, they get the ticket 2 days before the drawing, and they get to sit there while they're packaging boxes in that warehouse, just thinking, what if? Just what if? Why not? Why couldn't it be me? You're selling hope. And I feel like that's kind of what a lot of us do. It's like, well, you never know. You record a song, you're excited about it. Your guitar player's excited about it. Everyone's excited about it. And you start sending it off, playing it for people. And you just don't know whose lap it's going to land into on their laptop when they open that email and push play. Who's going to fucking hear it? That's your lottery ticket. We're buying into hope is what it is,
Isn't that half the payoff though too? That like whenever you're working on something that you're really into and you like it, and then you get done with it and you're proud of it, and it's like you created something that didn't exist yesterday, and like that just makes me feel so good when it goes right,
Yeah,
Dude,
you're so right, man.
You ever notice the songs that we've had the most success with whatever success that is, that they always came together in like 30 minutes?
Right. Yeah.
The best ones always come together really fast.
Well, dude, that's even just a good little segue to say that we just got over the 20 million streams for the song Pirates. That just happened.
20 million.
And I don't know. I mean, that means I made 87 cents, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
It means I could buy the lottery ticket now.
You could go buy that lottery ticket for hope.
Exactly. No, but it is kind of like, it's one of those things where I go, I listen back to that song because obviously it's like the most popular Bullets song. And I'm like, I don't know why. I think I've written songs way better than that or something like that. Right. But when I listen to it, I go,
that's why that song is very simple.
The lyrics don't make sense. It's recorded pretty not that great. It's off time. I sing out of key. Like, it's just funny. Like when I tried to find the value in it by listening back to it, I go, all I'm finding is why. And it just goes to show that it's like a certain song comes out at a certain time and it happens to be in the right, whatever galaxy space, universe that land. And it just somehow is the soundtrack for some group of people's life. And no matter how bad or dumb it may be, like who would have thought, Blur woohoo was going to be the one. Those guys are fucking brilliant musicians, and they write a song, like that, and it's like their big hit. Simple. And also I remember when we had we were going to have a lawyer called Ian Montone, if I'm not mistaken. At the time he was just now starting to break with managing the White Stripes. And I remember, speaking of Brain, I think it was him at his house. He goes, check this out, pushes play. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is an interesting demo. Who's this? Oh, it's a band called the White Stripes. And I go, oh, cool. So are they going to track this thing at some point? And he's like, this is it. And I'm like, okay, so who's the singer who decided he's going to play drums on the demo? Like, oh, that's the drummer. And I'm like, okay. And the bass player quit that day, I guess, right? No bass player. Is that right? Yeah. And I'm like thinking, it's so funny, man. That's around the time I was in the music industry, neck and neck with these people. And I remember everybody's just kind of like, Jack White, he's a genius. Look at what he did, and da-da-da. And I'm like, this motherfucker, if it wouldn't have worked out, I mean, I'm glad it did. Yes, he's brilliant in so many ways, sure. But if it didn't land at the right time when it came out, people would go, I could picture all these fucking A&R suit dudes going, well, of course it didn't work out. This red and white cheesy candy thing. And also there's no bass player. Let's face it, this Meg chick, she really can't play drums. This was never going to get off the ground. So it's like everyone
it all goes back to talking about the timing. It's the right place, right time for what they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm not dogging it. I fucking love it too. But my point though is that everyone's behind it when it fucking finally works. Like I remember even like all my dudes at RCA Records, everyone's like, oh man, Bullets and Octane. And then as soon as it like doesn't work out, they're like, well, of course it didn't really work out. I mean, things were changing, you guys were kind of doing the metal thing, but it was too poppy for Headbangers Ball and da-da-da. It's like, oh, okay, now you don't believe in it. It's funny.
Another band that this must have been around the same time Bullets was coming out on RCA. I remember they lived next door to Brain, the Pink Spiders. Were you ever at Brain's place when the Pink Spiders lived next door? They were in town recording their album, their first album, and there was all this hype about those dudes. They've just come back recently, I've noticed. But like, there's another example of like all the hype in the world. I thought it was a clever name, the Pink Spiders. They were young enough, good looking enough guys, you know?
Yeah.
Pink Spiders is another name for Hooters.
Is it? No.
It is now.
Is it?
Well, I didn't know massive wagons meant that. I just didn't.
To answer your question, Ryan, I've never had a dude go, nudge, nudge, check out the Pink Spiders on that broad.
Check out the Pink Spiders on that chick, dude. That could be our thing now. Hey, man.
Yeah, I like it. We could use something new. I like it.
That is awesome. I'm glad things are going really good. And I'm glad that everything happens for this Steve Stevens thing. That's great stuff. That really is awesome stuff, and I'm happy for you guys. And
yeah, I will say too, I want to give some credit to working with Clay Davies on this latest track and stuff, and watching that camaraderie come together with Steve Stevens and Clay Davies. It's kind of cool that it's like co-writing with him and him also producing the track and being a guitar nerd kind of guy, and watching Steve Stevens and Clay Davies like nerd out about, oh, what kind of tremolo bar do you have on your fucking, all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I don't really know what to say to those things. Like, what kind of pedal board? Like, I'm like, pedal boards. I don't know. So it's just kind of cool. I feel pretty blessed that even this late in the game and making a lot of, interesting choices along the way, that there's still like excitement and things that come together and happen. And I feel pretty humbled in all of that, because, when you're young, you kind of like condition yourself to almost live your life like a book or like a movie, because you kind of have to be a little crazy and keep that side of your craziness going. Like, it's hard. You can't really live in that headspace you have to be in and have your feet on the ground. Those two worlds are hard to straddle at the same time, So I think there is something to be said about being chaotic, and then as you get older and you get humbled by reality, and still be able to have opportunities and avenues open up, and still kind of even just excite yourself with some of the creations that come out. It's like, wow, This is better than this thing. This is better than this thing. I've gone in a different direction. I do hear some Tears for Fears influences. I never really thought I could have heard that, So there's always things to get excited about, like, new directions to push yourself in. Because if you're not making the money, like I said earlier, the fame or the money from it, you have to do stuff creatively to pay off on your own. When you're washing dishes by yourself and you're thinking about the new song and you're like, man, I did it. I wrote that song that I heard in 5th grade that I thought, that's an impossible song to write. And you kind of get close. And that's a little bit of an achievement that no one else gets to celebrate really but yourself,
That's
cool
pretty
story.
Deep shit. I love it.
My thought at this point is just to say, Ryan and Johnny, thank you guys for having me on.
He's a professional.
I'd love
Yes.
to come on and do more talks about music stuff. If you guys ever
open invite. Come back anytime. Seriously.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
This was a great conversation. I did enjoy that. Thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 104 of the What Everybody podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and report, because reporting is the most important part of all of this. Until next time.
Click the dingy bell.
Ding, ding. I'm not going to say the line we
Ding,
all
ding.
hate. Smash the like button. Fucking hate that thing. With that being said,
the worst.
you guys all have a great week. We'll see you next time on the What Everybody podcast.
Yeah. See ya. Thanks, Gene.